Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to today's video. It's gonna be a good one. I am so excited for today's video because today, as you can see, we are doing my 2023 reading wrapped, aka going over my reading statistics from 2023 in a fun way. I am so excited for this video. I loved making this video last year and I wanted to do it again because it's just fun, okay? Okay, so without further ado, let's just get into it, shall we? Welcome to my 2023 reading wrapped. We had some highs and some lows and some reading slumps, and you know, we just went through it all this year, okay? I coined this year as my busy girl era, okay? She went through it this year in terms of busyness with literally everything in life, okay? I had a lot going on, and let's recap some of that stuff that happened. The biggest thing, I got married. I got married. That was a big deal. That took up so much of my time this year. It was the most beautiful day I could have ever asked for. It was truly like the most incredible day of my life, and it was worth all of the planning, but my reading came at a sacrifice to that, and that's okay. Let's recap the other things. It was a very busy year for me. We did a lot of traveling. My booktube besties came. It was beautiful. We had an incredible time. It was like, literally, that was one of the highlights of my year, was seeing my friends. It was incredible. Reed and I did a lot of traveling and hiking and that stuff. It was very fun, and I also had my bachelorette party, so it was quite the year. I had a lot going on, and as you'll see, I didn't read a lot, okay? Let's see how many books I read this year. It was only 18, okay? Not that many books. This does not include DNFs, by the way. This is only books that I fully completed. It was actually 19. I just finished a book this morning, but I did not want to remake the slideshow. So technically it was 19 books, but still, that was a 57% decrease from 2022. Now that's a lot. Okay? But you know what? We are not going to feel bad. We are not going to feel shamed. We are not going to feel bad about not reading a ton this year. The fact that I read 19 books is a lot more than a lot of people can say. And I am still going to be proud of that. And I want you to know that if you are someone who is a slower reader, just like I am, you are doing a great job, okay? Sometimes BookTube can make me feel like I'm not reading enough. But I want you to know that, like, if you are feeling that way, just don't feel that way, because we're all out here. We're all out here just trying to have fun and trying to read. I am just proud of the fact that I did read 19 books this year. I think that's still a success in its own. And I'm gonna get off my soapbox now. Okay, ready? Let's move on. How many pages did I read this year? 600, that many. I read 6,800 pages. Again, 58% decrease from 2022. It's okay. And then if we compare to the previous years, 2022, I read 15,000 pages and 42 books. 2021, I read 15,000 pages and 34 books. And 2020, I read 18,000 pages and 48 books. So this is more my usual, but life got in the way. That's the stats. Let's move on. Okay, we're just gonna look at an overall graph this year of all of the books I read and the times that I read them. As you can see, started off the year hot. We were having the fresh start. We were having the good vibes. We were doing a great time. Then we get into April, May, June, July, summer months. I'm more busy, not reading a lot, maybe reading a book a month. It's fine. Then you get into August, September, October, and that's when I got married, okay? We had a lot going on then. We had a lot going on and zero time to read. So I'm not upset about that, but that's just what happened. And then November, I don't even have the statistics for December in here, but I've already read 2 books in December. So November, December, had all of my time back and it was amazing. So then we got back on the horse, you know? So yeah, I hope you enjoyed these wedding photos because personally I love them and it was literally the best day of my life. So hope you enjoyed them too. Next up, we have genres. Let's take a look at the genres I read this year. So biggest categories here are fantasy, historical, and literary fiction. The fact that I had historical on here was quite a surprise to me. Normally I am a fantasy and literary fiction girly. I have been getting way more into the romantasy and I wish I would have put romantasy as a category on here. Yeah, like I said, fantasy, literary fiction are typically my biggest genres, so I really didn't step outside of my comfort zone. That is one of my goals for 2024. The good thing is that this graph, while I did have a few genres that I read more of, I still feel like I had somewhat of a diversity of genres. My takeaway from this is I'm okay with this. Like, I would like to start reading different genres. Like I said, one of my goals is trying to read more outside my comfort zone. I would like to try and read things that I'm not typically the most interested in or like interested in right off the bat. I want to try new things. I want to step outside my comfort zone and I want to like even more diversify this. But I mean, like, it's fine. I'm really not surprised. This is like a very typical graph for me, I would say. Next up, audience. I am an adult fiction girly. Like, I love an adult book. I am an adult. And while I have been getting more into the new adult this year, I typically don't read a ton of YA. I did read one children's book this year and I was very happy about that. The one thing that I was so shocked about is that I read 0 middle grade this year. I love middle grade. It brings a light to my soul. It makes me so happy and joyous. And the fact that I read no middle grade this year, what am I doing? What am I doing? I am definitely planning on reading more middle grade next year. Anytime I read a middle grade, it just is so, it just gives me all the warm fuzzies, you know? And I need more of that in my life. Again, not super surprised with this graph, just want to be able to read some more middle grade. Next up, we have publication years. This one's always a fun little graph to look at for me personally. I really leaned hard into the newer releases this year. 2023, 2022 were my biggest pieces of the pie here, and that does not shock me again. I try and keep up with like some of the new releases and like things that have been released recently, but I do know that there are so many books on my backlist and from backlist years that I have a feeling I'm really, really going to love. That one's that. Next up, format. This one was very interesting for me to review. I read 71% physical books this year, and I only read 3 audiobooks. Like, what? I always thought I was a solid mix of an audiobook, physical book type of gal, but clearly I love reading a physical book. I love the feel of a book. I love sitting and the act of reading a book and like snuggling up with a cup of coffee and getting all cozy. Like, that is like one of my favorite things in life. So I'm not surprised that I'm like really heavily leaning toward physical reading, but like I always had thought that I was a half and half kind of gal, but I'm not. One of my goals for the next year was to read more audiobooks because I think it would help me read more books in general. And also there are some really great audiobooks out there. So I would love to up that number next year. And I'm surprised I didn't read more ebooks as well. Like, I don't know. I just had no idea that I was reading so many books physically. But you know what? It's also good because a lot of those books were books that were on my shelf too that I was trying to read. Happy about that, I guess. I don't feel like I have a ton of feeling about this other than the fact that, yeah, I want to read a little bit more audio. Okay, next chart. Author status. I read 85% new to me authors. I am honestly kind of proud of that. Like I said before, I don't think I step outside of my comfort zone that much, but like seeing the fact that I read that many new to me authors was good. And I want to keep that up and I want to keep going with that because I feel like, again, trying to find new authors, stepping outside my comfort zone, like that is the goal that I want to be in 2024. We're working towards it. We're already taking steps to it, you know? Okay, next up, diversity. Wait, this is better than what it was last year. I read 81% white authors last year. And the fact that I read 38% this year, my goal was 50%. And I mean, I took steps toward it. We definitely are getting there. I was definitely thinking about this more throughout this year. And while I didn't hit that 50% target like I had set out to do, that is still an improvement. And I am proud of myself for trying to diversify my background of author. You know, like I'm trying to not do what we did in 2022, and I am taking steps towards becoming more conscious about that. I'm glad that I did this, and I still have more work to do. I am doing it, and I am trying to be more conscious about reading more diversely rather than just like reading anything that is served up to me on the platter of Goodreads. Do you know what I mean? We're doing better. Next year, I want to hit that 50%. Oh, I would feel great if I could do that. Next slide. Series. Didn't read a ton of series this year. Probably read about, it's about 25% series and mostly standalone. I do love a good series every once in a while, but I do love a standalone book. I've always loved more standalone books than I do series. And while like I love series, in my heart, I do want to have a balance. I feel like the books that I have most enjoyed over the past few years are not books part of a series. I want to keep kind of this graph next year as well, in this fact that I'm reading more standalone literature. I'm okay with this. I have no feeling towards this. This is probably what my graph is going to be next year, and I kind of hope that it's that way because I do like reading books that are more standalones. All right, where did I source these books from? I bought a lot of books. Okay. I did read 6 books that I already owned, which was great. Did a lot more, not a lot. I mean, it's three books I did read from the library. Actually four, because the one that I finished this morning was also from the library. And we did some Audible. Clearly, I like to spend money on books, and I have shown that in my in my graph. I am like not surprised by this at any means. I do love owning books, and I'm glad I'm reading the books that I am buying. So that's good. Yeah, let's move on. Publication type. Okay, this is a graph I am hoping to turn around. I read 95% traditionally published books, and I read one self-published book, and that self-published book was a fan fiction that I talked about for ages. I didn't read any books that were indie, like independent publishers, and I really want to change that next year. Traditional publishing is great, but at the same time, I think, again, goes to my stepping outside my comfort zone. I would really like to try a few indie publishers and see what I think about them. I have a hard time identifying who is an independent publisher and like which books are part of independent publishers and which ones are not. The only reason I knew the one was self-published is because it was a fan fiction, and obviously it was. I would like to change this graph around next year. And again, I have to be more intentional about finding indie books. You know who I need to hit up? Covers with Cassidy. I just need to go onto her channel and like look up indie fantasy because she's got the racks. All right, next up we have star ratings. I think this is a fun graph to look at as well. My average rating is a 4.4. And you know what? That's actually great. That's actually great, because what this graph tells me is that I am deliberately not choosing to continue books that I am not enjoying. Under 4 stars, I only had two. It was actually 3 because the book I read this morning, I only gave like a 2.5 stars. I only had 3 books under a 4-star rating, which means the books I am finishing, I am enjoying and I am loving. And I feel like I have stepped into my DNF or soft DNF era. And this is the place to be. Last year, I was just so sick of reading mediocre books. It just annoys me, and I end up getting more cynical as I'm reading the book if I know I'm not going to give it like a higher rating. You know, if I'm not enjoying the book, I just get like cynical and like annoyed, and then it puts me in a reading slump, you know? So the fact that I'm feeling more confident about DNFing books or like stopping books and like just reading the books that I'm really intrigued about really, really makes me happy. And by looking at this graph, some may say I'm a little bit of a 5-star slut. Okay, I do love a 5-star. I had over half of my books 5 stars. And I wish I didn't cover up the graph now because it was literally 9 books and I read 18. So it was half of my books were 5 stars. But I would also beg to argue that that is a really good thing. I am reading 5-star books. That makes me feel happy that I am choosing books and continuing on with books that I do really love, and I am DNFing books that I don't love. Okay, I would call this a success, and I want to continue this graph into next year. Next up, I know this question has been on your mind. I know you've been thinking about this. What were the colors of the books that you read? Here we go. This is the color graph, okay? We have a large majority. We got the entire color wheel here, okay? We got red, orange, pink, yellow, blue. I didn't read any purple books. That's sad. Black, white. We had all of the colors. Biggest color we had was green. I don't know. I mean, there's something about green that says rebirth, that says nature, that says go, that says renewal. Like, that's what green gives me. And I'm okay with this. You know, I just thought this was a fun little graph, and it was part of my reading statistics thing, and it was just fun. Okay, next slide. What are my DNFs? Here we go. Let's get to the T, okay? These are hard DNFs, okay? This is me reading the book and being like, I do not want to finish this book, and I put it away. I do have another category for soft DNFs where that's books that I was reading, and then I just kind of like just stopped reading it. Not for any particular reason, I just kind of stopped. But these 4 are the ones that I was like, we're done. First one was Silver Nitrate. I was 33% of this book. It was really going nowhere for me. I was not intrigued into the plot, and I was like, I'm bored, done. Trust, got about 20% in. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be, and I was just confused by the financial talk pretty much the entire time, and I just didn't really care, so I said no. Spare, I got beef with Prince Harry, for real. This was so bad. This was so bad. And I am normally one for a memoir. I love a good memoir. This, whoever his ghostwriter was, you did a bad job. Like, straight up. I was so bored. I did not care at all. The whole book to me was just this like cry for money. Like, I don't really like follow the royal family. It just felt like they're trying to separate from the royal family, and like we're just like trying to get away and like get away from the spotlight. Oh my God, I'm gonna release this massive tell-all book because I'm searching for money at the same time I'm putting out a Netflix documentary. Like, we see it. And I just like, I got halfway through the book, did not give a flying F even for a second. Okay, don't read it, straight up. I didn't even get to the part that was Meghan Markle, which is the reason I wanted to read the book, is because I wanted to know like the tea behind all of like everything in the royal family. I didn't even make it because I was so bored. And the last one I DNF'd was Icebreaker. And this is a new DNF. You're gonna have to watch my winter reading vlog, which comes out next week, if you wanna know the tea about this, because I got beef with that book. Straight beef. I was so mad. If you want a preview, just go onto my Goodreads and I have a little preview there. Okay, next up we have the soft DNFs. Now these are books that I kind of just like stopped reading, not for any particular reason, and I will probably get back to them at some point. I just like didn't feel I don't know, I was just kind of like reading them, and then all of a sudden I picked up a different book and I was like, oh, I forgot. Starting from the left, Good Girl's Guide to Murder, got about 100 pages in. I wouldn't say I wasn't enjoying it. I don't know, I just kind of like stopped reading it. I don't really know. I would go back to it. I would finish that book. I was also reading that book right around the time that we were getting married, and that's probably why I stopped reading it. Everything I Know About Love. Honestly, I loved this book in the beginning, and then again, I think my life got in the way, and then all of a sudden it was 2 weeks and I hadn't read the book, and then I was just kind of like, I forgot. Rebecca, I tried, and then, I don't know, I just felt like I couldn't understand what was happening. Also, classical literature, I tend to have a harder time with. And then The Blade itself, genuinely want to finish this book one day. I was probably like 30% in, and I was so confused. And then I just wanted to read something else. The audiobook for that is straight up gold. It is amazing. I would actually 100% recommend reading the audiobook if you want to read that, but I do want to finish it. I'm not DNFing it. I want to come back to it at some point. Okay, yeah. Next up, crying. This is my favorite slide of the whole year because I love when books make me cry. It's my favorite thing ever. Crying stats, okay? Dry eyes. We had 72% of my books gave me dry eyes. That's way too high. That is honestly unacceptable. I will not take that for an answer next year, okay? One single tier, we had 11%. I think that's maybe like 1 or 2 books. And we had Ugly Cry, we had 16.7%, which I think is 3 books. And I'm gonna talk about those ugly cries now. We had Ugly Cries with Our Wives Under the Sea, Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, and Hex. Now, if you want to know what books I love out of this year, those three. Any book that can make me cry, any book that can emotionally wreck me like that, done. You're in my top 10 friends, okay? Absolute chef's kiss. You wanna know what I look like when I ugly cry? Because I put a picture in here, okay? That was when I was reading Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. I was beyond unwell. I could not stop crying. It was that kind of cry. It was a lot, but I loved that book. It was so good. I read that book at the right time. It just hit different. Now, if you are interested in my top books of the year, you're gonna have to wait for a few days until my top books of 2023 come out. Again, we didn't have a big pool to choose from, but like I said, I 9 of them were 5 stars. I'm excited to talk to you about them and tell you what they are because I feel passionately about these books, okay? They right into my soul. I loved them. I'm really, really pleased with the books that I did read this year, and I'm just so excited to talk to you about them. So if you made it this far into the video, leave me an emoji that reminds you of like whether that's a graph, like a statistics thing, or like a math thing, or like the E sign. I used to know what that was called and I don't remember it anymore. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I will see you guys in my next one. Peace and love. Bye.